We're coming to the end of day 2 of Cape Wine, and normally this would be a live show, but instead what we're giving you is a rerun of what we had at lunchtime today, because it's really worth having another look at. Live earlier on today from the floor of Cape Wine and the Expo, we got to chat to a selection of really cool people, kicking off with the CEO of Wines of South Africa, Siobhan Thompson, as she ran us through what happened yesterday and how the Expo has been playing out. We then had the chance to catch up with Greg Sherwood, and he dropped a bombshell about his future. You'll have to watch the show to catch that. We also had a chat to Andy Woolger, a good friend of the show, who's bringing South African wine from across the country into North Carolina and its surrounds, just so passionate about bringing South African wine into America. From there it was on to Tim Hutchinson, the chairman of DGB, an assortment of brands doing great stuff for South African wine all over the world, and then on to a couple of members of the Zoo crew. Wait until you see what Chris Alheit is wearing on the show today. It's possibly the best outfit we've ever had, and that's appropriate for a man who makes such fantastic wine. And another member of the Zoo crew then dropped in, Jessica from Sour Wine, who with her Riesling and a Pinot Noir has got fans absolutely everywhere. And then to wrap up, 2 wines that have only just come out. Thornton Pillay, the assistant winemaker with Bruce Jack, who's now making his very own wine, a combination of him and his wife's names. It's a romantic story to go with some really nice wine. So sit back and enjoy. This went out lunchtime today, but a quick replay of a wonderful show with some wonderful people and a celebration of the absolutely fabulous occasion that is Cape Wine 2022. And I think that's an important understanding of what sustainability means for this. It's not simply being great to the environment and looking after our vines and having the right farming methods. It's about ensuring that the wine industry is sustainable, and one kind of leads into the other.
Correct. I think, Dan, that's most importantly. If you don't have the economic sustainability, you can't support those other pillars. And I think some of the projects that we have, things like Pebbles projects, where you're investing in the future, for the future, you know, educating people, where you are looking after your vines for their longevity, and where you are also putting wines into the market that are priced at various tier levels and can bring back that return on income that you can invest again into your people and your environment is so critically important for us.
In terms of this showcase, if I was buying wine, I'd be having a nightmare because I would not know where to start. There is so much fabulous wine. It sits against a backdrop, though, in a history of South African wine far too often overseas, operating at the bottom end of the tier, sitting at the bottom shelves of supermarkets. We've definitely seen that move. How much is this going to be a catalyst for getting those perceptions shifting even faster?
Yeah. I think that's very important to state, because if you look at Europe, we traditionally have been at the entry level, and that has started to change. And I think the United Kingdom is a fantastic example of that, where we're starting to see different tiers, wines of different tiers being stocked, and the image is starting to change. And when you walk into this hall, you can clearly see that we have wines of every tier group of offerings, but the most important thread is the quality. You will have consistent quality running throughout that. So if a buyer comes in here, they can have a look at a portfolio approach. So we have entry level, we have medium level, and we also have high price level wines. But they're always good quality. And I think that's what's so important. So the world is seeing a different picture.
And seeing it very, very happily, because the engagement has been terrific. We're well into day 2, already a huge success in terms of just people coming here and enjoying the wine. But when you put down your glass for the last time tomorrow evening and you go home and take a much deserved break after all of this mania, what for you will make this a successful Cape Wine?
For me, it would be the fact that we start to see progress in exports. So we've had a little bit of a dip because of COVID. So and the second thing is really to start seeing the image for South Africa lifting to the next level. So to talk about South African wine in a different way, starting to stock South African wine, we start to see South Africa as leaders in sustainability, because I think that is so important. We need the world to realize that we are out there. We're the best are in terms of our sustainability practices, and we do care about our people, we do care about our environment, and we want this industry to last.
Well, this is the platform to ensure that happens. Siobhan, thank you. I know you're manic. I really appreciate you taking some time off. And we'll be seeing you back on the show on Monday for a slightly more detailed wrap-up. And I suspect you'll still be smiling then.
I will, but I'll be wearing my Birkenstocks, not my high heels. So I'll see you on Monday evening.
Perfect, Siobhan. Thank you
Thanks,
so much
Dan.
indeed. Siobhan, the CEO South Africa, who is overseeing this gathering of people from all over the world. And by all over the world, last night I had dinner with somebody from Kenya, with somebody from New York. I met a pile of Swedes and a couple of Norwegians. It is a very multicultural gathering, and I must say at last night's dinner, thank you to the team from Wines of Elgin and their range of Pinot Noir. We had a masterclass. Richard Kershaw, who speaks brilliantly and passionately and never briefly about wine, and it was a wonderful lesson in the wines, and in particular the Pinot Noir of Elgin, and also the Waterside, which was hosting us last night. All right, let's move on to our second guest as he flips his broad shoulders and chiseled jaw and grizzled look onto. Far too often, sadly, we have to see over the wrong end of a Zoom call. It is lovely to have you here in person, Greg Sherwood.
Thanks, Dan. So I seem to be watching computer screens and TV screens and phone screens all the time to get to see you, but it's lovely to be back in the Cape. It's so good to be back. I was here in March, but it was such a kind of hectic trip, and obviously it was harvest time for a lot of guys still, and I didn't really get what I wanted done, but I thought, don't worry, I was 99% sure I'd be at Cape Wine.
So Cape Wine, celebration of all of South Africa's producers just about. The world comes to Cape Town, including South Africa's #1 wine voice from London. How difficult has it been for you trying to walk through this place and getting stopped with feet?
I was just chatting to somebody yesterday. I think the Swartland guys were like, "Where are you?" I said, "No, but the problem is you're on the far side." I said, "I didn't make it past the first aisle on the left of the room," and I said, I kind of remember the 2015, which I think was the second Cape Wine, where I could kind of walk about pull my cap down, and the odd kind of supplier would kind of call me over to taste, and I could do the room pretty much almost in a day, and then just go and pick out a few. But yeah, it's been tricky. You just know everyone; they're all good mates, they're all good friends. A lot of them, bought a lot of wine from in the past, or kind of written a lot about their wine. So it's been a little bit tricky, but it's also great. It's everyone just greets you with such a smile on their face, and it's always good to see these people and catch up. So there's been a lot of talking, not so much drinking and tasting, but I'm not here to kind of review wines or kind of tasting a few new things and just talking about future projects and where people are going with their wineries and new wines. But it's a little bit like London Wine Trade Fair. The most you get out of it is actually talking and getting to reconnecting with
I wanted to ask you about that, because a London Trade Fair is a big one, Provine is a big one. You know all these spaces well. From an objective perspective, how good do you feel Cape Wine has been this year?
So I didn't go to 2012. I was speaking to Tina Galley yesterday from Decanter magazine after they bestowed the wonderful award with Rosa Kruger, and I said I wasn't there, but we were tasting at Ian Nordier's stand, and Tina said, "I tasted these white blends with Ian 10 years ago." And Ian was the father of the white blend pretty much in South Africa back then, doing the white blend conferences. And I said, well, okay, I've got to, I heard all about this Cape Wine, but I mean, I'm not big into trade shows. Provine's quite a sweat. Vinexpo in Bordeaux was just a nightmare. Vinitaly's massive as well. But I said, no, I should do one. I came to 2015 and oh my God, I never looked back. And I said, that was just incredible. Just the people you meet, the kind of relationships you build and the chat and the talk and the insight you get. It's just, even for somebody like me who's been in the trade forever, is really, really valuable. And then 2018 was just like a no-brainer and was even, I said, how can we get, it was even better. So I think the energy here, because people have been, it's been 4 years, a lot of people have been traveling, but a lot haven't. So a lot of people have got very excited to see the international trade, their agents and buyers, and so there's a lot of vibrancy, a lot of interest. And it's
in terms of what you've seen so far, I'd imagine that every morning there are 300 or 400 DHL deliveries to Chateau Sherwood in Richmond as South African wine arrives for you to taste. Is there much that is new to you so far? Stuff you haven't tried? Something that's a new discovery so far?
So, I mean, there's always new wines. There's not so much new producers. it's more new vintages and new little projects that people are doing. Just tasted 2 incredible wines with Adam Mason that he's consulting with. I know he's doing a big gig at Frischenhof, but I just tasted two little wines, a old vine Chenin Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, and a old vine Colombard, which were just mind-blowing, 2022s. So little things like that you just get a little heads up, and I've always prided myself in my kind of buying career. I always felt I was at least 6 months ahead of everyone else, because I just made that extra effort, and I always had that little upper hand. And it kind of almost got amplified when I started doing more reviewing of wine years ago. So people would send it even earlier, and to get a kind of, even just to gauge the quality or see is it a good style, what do you think? And it was a very fortunate position to be in, because I see things so early, and you really just think, wow, very exciting. Just tasting here, Saki Mouton's 2022 Vermentino, second release. Well, it's not released yet, but second vintage. Got a little bit of skin contact on, a day or two of skin contact. Absolutely tweaking these young guys. He's, one of the young guns. The young guns, Eben was complaining to me yesterday.
He's still a gun.
He's not a young gun. He said, Greggy, don't forget me. I remember the days you used to buy us free drinks after the show. He said, don't forget us old boys now, we're old guns and old dogs. I said, no. So they've earned their stripes, the respect is there, and it's great to see those guys kind of elevating their role within the industry, and then, filling in the spaces as some of the other people retire and pull back a bit and enjoy their retirement. And these guys, Ardi and Yevon and your Rivera Ratas and Ian Nordiers and stuff, these guys are the shining lights that lead the way for these guys. The young guys coming through from Elsenburg, Stellenbosch, and further afield. So it's really exciting, and I get referred to a lot of them to go and meet them and see them, and I do, when I can, a lot of tastings with the students at Elsenburg, and they kind of reappear in new creations at other wineries or their own wineries, and it's so important to keep them inspired and see what energy they're giving back, because there's such talent coming through, and it's very, very exciting. So
you've been a great platform for so much of that talent. I know there are exciting things on the cards, but we don't know what it is yet. Official Royal Wine Consultant, or starting your own vineyard.
Well, no, we can give a Dan Nichols scoop that I have indeed early August have left Hanford Wines after 22 years.
Great stint.
And considering I'm only 50, that's almost half my life. So I'd say that's quite a big thing. But it was just an organic thing. I've got a few projects which hopefully will be signed off and we can reveal on a future show. But it's all very exciting. It's a new chapter. It's come at the right time. But most importantly, it's just been an organic thing, and it will involve hopefully still a lot of South African wines. So that, for me, as I move into a different phase of my career now, the world is so much more receptive. I've done the hard graft of 20 years of trying to convince people that they should stand up and pay attention to South African wine and fine wine from South Africa. And now I can hopefully reap a bit of the rewards and just have a slightly easier time and not be always battling away and pushing all the top wines of South Africa, which are just so incredible, as you know. So exciting times ahead. We'll keep you posted.
Good luck with it.
So thank you.
I know you've got an 11-course lunch to go and dig into, so enjoy that.
It's I don't know if I'm not. I know we're supposed to be tasting only South African wine, but I'm going to see Anthony and Olive Hamilton Russell to taste their Oregon wines. So
very exciting project.
Can't say no to that.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the show. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Dan.
And we'll catch up again soon when we know what you're up to.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. Greg Sherwood, head sommelier at London Welsh, amongst other jobs. A great friend to me, a great friend to Dan, really likes wine, and most importantly, a great friend to South African wine. Say goodbye to Hanford Wines. after 22 years, officially revealing that on the show and making his way into where? Well, as soon as Greg is ready. Coming up still on the show a little later, Chris Alheit is set to be joining us. And gee, is he looking good in his leopard print tracksuit. We're also going to be catching up with Thornton and Jessica Sauer, her wine. But right now, another good friend of the show, and we go international once again with America's favourite wine Englishman, Mr. Wilgar. Welcome.
Great to see you, Dan.
I had a genuine warm feeling yesterday because we've spoken so much online, we've had you on the show, and then you arrive with this armada of acolytes all cheering behind you.
Absolutely.
As the Andy Wilgar Wine Show.
That's how I roll, man. Yeah, that's how I roll. So it seems.
Welcome. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I know you've been so excited about this. Has it lived up to expectation?
100%. Yeah, really enjoying it, and just to walk into the hall for the first time in a couple of years, since the last one, and feel the buzz and the energy here, and just see what's out there, see what's new, and meet up with some old mates, that sort of thing. So it's been really nice to do that.
Two main thrusts I'd imagine to your visit. One is catching up with the array of people you represent, and in the case of some of them, I'm thinking perhaps Erica Obermeyer maybe meeting for the first time in person.
Yeah.
But then also trying to have a look at, in this vast array of wine behind us, who else might be fitting to join the Elephant's Corner stable.
Exactly, yes, yeah, the bar's set high. But no, so yes, continuing our small producer theme really, and looking to see what's out there, get some advice from some of our winemakers we already work with, and then going finding these guys in the hall here and tasting their wines. And I have a nice little list, let's say, and looking forward to bringing a bit more of the best wine in the world over to the US for sure.
What directs the process? I mean, if it was me, it'd be, I like this, I'll take it. I suspect it's slightly more complicated. Is it a balance between what do I think the market needs, what is the gap in our portfolio, and possibly who are these people? Do we feel that they're people we'd like to work with?
All of the above, yeah. Absolutely. Certainly regional when it comes to the wine itself, where the farm's located, where they have their vineyards, let's say. And definitely the relationship side has to be very, you have to have a good fit, and I think you can feel that generally when you meet somebody and you like their philosophy, and if the wine lives up to the expectations, let's say, or suddenly jumps out and is something that I hadn't expected but it's really good, then we talk a bit further, and it really is a relationship business, as you know, and as I said to a small producer just before sitting here with you, we tasted his wines, and it's instantly you have a good rapport, you have a good feeling with somebody, and we talk, with my current winemakers, we talk all the time. We're speaking, obviously, the great service of WhatsApp as it is, from one continent to the other, and we have the banter and the fun, and we follow each other's what we're up to on that day, and obviously they all love to see that I'm out selling the wines and doing tastings and dinners all over the state of North Carolina, and no, it's just building that rapport with each other, and if I feel that side of it is, we kind of gel on that side too, then I think there's room to work together further, definitely.
Tell me about the people you've brought over with you, because they haven't so much been walking through as skipping across Cape Wine.
They have, yeah, they've been making impressions as they go, which is really nice. So Bob and Stephanie Potter from Salisbury Wine Shop, which is a very South African-centric wine shop located in just north of Charlotte. And those guys, this is I think their third time in South Africa, and first time to the show, so they're loving it. We also have Nikki from Triangle Wines in Raleigh, a different area, and she looks after the buying for 3 different stores in the Raleigh-Durham area. She's definitely making an impression on let's say, the male winemakers of the world out there. And then, of course, we have Bill and Camilla Wheeler, who own a store called Nautical Wheelers, actually 2 different stores on the coast. So we're covering all of North Carolina with those guys here, and they're very excited to soak it all in and see the true flavors of South Africa and what it has to offer, not just in the hall, but also Cape Town itself and surroundings. So they got a little bit more traveling to do out to Franschhoek and Stellenbosch and some of the other stunning winemaking regions that we have here. And just soaking it all in, enjoying it, and of course they're giving me their advice, you know. Oh, you should
Whether
bring this
you
in,
ask
you
for
should
it or
buy
not.
that, you know, yeah, whether I ask for it or not, yeah. But it's nice, and I did ask for it actually, so I'm setting myself up for that. But it's fun, you know, getting their feedback is phenomenal, and they're all saying, yeah, we'll buy this, you should bring this in, we'll buy this, you know. So, but I still have to be very careful and precise about what I bring, and you know, I guess I got to keep all the plates spinning, as it were, and keep moving the stuff. Once we bring it in on the container, it has to go somewhere. So we've got to look a little bit further afield than just the one store. But so that's but it's fun to do, you know. It's fun to do.
This is the sexy part of the job. You get to hang out at a wonderful expo, drink great
With
wine.
you, you mean,
People.
yeah?
With me, of course.
Yeah, of
Put the
course.
two of us together. What about translating it when you get back to America? What is the job at hand as you see it, from taking this kind of energy and excitement and turning that into wine sales and more of a wine presence in America?
Yeah, I think that's an everyday process, as I touched on before. Really, it's just something that, you know, you have to show that passion, you have to show that energy, all the energy that's in this hall. Try and capture that and take it back with us, and people, you know, I hope will soak it all in and really feel that they're, I guess, getting to know these wineries. You know, they're very intimate little farms that I'm working with, and I just want to try and pass that as best as I can, that knowledge across to the buyers. And you know, we're not having a big problem doing that so far. So you know, we're making some. I mean, I say this all the time. We're making fantastic wine here in South Africa, and just walking around the show the last couple of days here, I can honestly tell you I've not tasted one bad wine. You know, there's standards, obviously.
Yeah.
Some better than others, of course, but you know, there's price points to look at when you do that sort of tasting as well. But all in all, yeah, I mean, the standards are amazingly high, and I'm just trying to cherry pick what I want to fill my portfolio. There's really interesting cultivars out there that many people, including, you know, myself to a point, didn't even realize are being made in South Africa. So it's quite exciting to see those changes, and the farmers, the younger farmers particularly, planting some exciting things like Vermentino, you know, wines like that, which you just don't generally see everywhere in the Western Cape, you know.
It's a great endorsement that you're getting that kind of response to South African wine. Final one for you before you go back out to add to your portfolio. As we look at South African wine from the perspective of producers here, there are going to be a lot of people who'd perhaps like to have a crack at the American market, but a little worried. They know how fragmented it is. They know how each state can be different.
Yeah.
But also, as we said with Clay from DGB in America yesterday, you've got 300 million people. You can't simply say, well, Americans like rosé, but they don't drink Shiraz. It's
Right.
a little bit more complicated than
Right,
that.
right.
That said, though, what would your counsel be to a South African wine producers thinking, I'd like to go to America, I've got no idea where to start?
Yeah, well, I guess they might want to find me, I guess. But no, I mean, I think in general, it's I do it step by step. You know, what I've been telling the producers here, even if they don't work with me, if they would potentially be new to the US market, is to start small. Start with a small importer that may be covering one or two states. Don't go all in and put your brand alignment with a bigger business. And bigger businesses do a great job, but if they're a small producer, I think they may get lost somewhere. But with me, they won't. So look for a small producer that is focused on their brand, that gives them as much attention as any other brand in the portfolio. I think that's vital. They do that. And then they'll see growth. And really, I think that's my advice. They're all making really nice wines. There's a place for everything. And I think I'd leave it there, really. I think that's my approach, it's working for us. So
That's pretty shrewd counsel. Andy, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
do a glass of wine as soon as the show is done.
Totally.
Which I look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you. Your passion for South African wine is infectious, and
Thanks, man.
you're doing a huge amount for us over
Thanks
in
for
America.
thank you,
So
and
keep it
thanks.
up.
Yeah, and thanks for giving us the platform to be able to tell our story. I really do appreciate that very much.
It's a great
As always.
pleasure.
Thanks, my friend. Cheers.
Andy Wilger, Elephant's Corner Wines over in North Carolina, South Carolina, basically most of America. Just drive and find him, and taking a number of great South African brands, including Erica Obermeyer, the most recent addition to the stable. Built market with, because of the size of it and the fact that each state seems to have a different set of regulations. But people like Andy in his area focusing around. So Andy is taking wine into America. My next guest is sending wine to America, along with about 700 other countries. He's been on the show before. We welcome him back very happily. The International Global Chairman for Life of DGB, Mr. Tim Hutchinson. Tim, welcome.
Hi, how's it?
How are you enjoying
Yeah.
Cape Wine so far?
Fantastic. It's just great to see the energy. Nearly 2,000 guests scheduled over 2 days. No, it's great to be back in the business. You know, we've been isolated for so long. To have Canadians, Swedes, Americans, all these guys walking up to stands, tasting wine, partying after hours. It's fantastic. No, really good.
You guys are a big and successful business, so as good as this looks, as fun as it is, as energetic as it might be, you'll understand the business side of it very much. How much impact does an event like this have the potential to deliver to South African wine?
I think a lot, because in our business, most of our distributors aren't here. Those are established relationships. There's no benefit. It's like the Swedish monopoly, the Canadian monopoly. I mean, I had one of the monopolies coming and say, look, we're looking for a portfolio of Elgin wines. So they can spend 3 or 4 hours here, speak to 6 or 7 players and tick a box. No, it's vitally important. The journos, I mean, we got a big party tonight. A lot of young sommeliers from the US, young trendy guys working in trendy, funky restaurants, going to be recommending South African wine when they get back, because it's hard not to fall in love with the Cape. We've got great people and we've got better wines. So, I think it's vital. And for the industry to be on show, like, just feel the energy here. It's very special.
Let's dive down into the DGB space and the brands that you have. You've got a really nice portfolio that is growing. Like Friars Cove is in a really exciting space. Talk to us about that in the context of Cape Wine, the people you're meeting, people who are talking to you, and where you're seeing these brands going around the world.
Well, it's fantastic for new brands like Friars Cove, like Backsburg, like the Vineyard Friends from Douglas Green. These are very close to launch functions for us. So, and when we acquired those brands, they had pretty limited international representation. And, Provine, before we'd even relaunched Backsburg, for example, we found at that fair 8 new markets. Guys who've done business with us said, no, we're interested in that. So, nothing against the South African market, but to be successful as a producer, you have to be a global player. I guess we have the competitive advantage of having our own operations spread around the world in 14 markets. So, we're not running around Europe or the UK. Our people who live in the UK and Europe are doing that. So, no, this show is a great shop window for South Africa.
In terms of that shop window, we need people to lead it. We need people to lead the charge. I remember a number of years ago having an international wine speaker talk about how South Africa needed a Penfolds equivalent, somebody who can make wine in volumes at a high level and lead the rest of the market with it. Is there a brand within DGB that is that potential space?
Yeah, I think Bosch & Dahl ticks that box. I remember when we bought the brand Anglo-American, I think we're in 8 markets. We're in 70 odd now. When we acquired the brand, they didn't have the 1685 range and none of the executions above that, the Nicholas, the Black Angus, the Grand Shiraz. So I think, well, that's our goal with Bosch & Dahl. It's got critical mass. It's a bit like Antinori. If you look at Antinori in Italy, he has Santa Cristina, which conflicts a little with being a premium producer. But then his Tiganello, Sassicaia, his top-end wines are unbelievable. So, I've always admired him. I worked with him. We distributed his wines years ago. So I've modeled ourselves a little on him. But no, I think Bosch & Dahl can be a proper flagship. We've got an iconic property, which a lot of money is being spent on. So we've got the tourist, restaurant, visit experience, right? I just hosted the International Rugby Board. 40 execs. They stayed in a couple of the top-end accommodation facilities. Sir Bill Bowman, the chairman, said to me, hell, it's as good as the best restaurant he's stayed anywhere in the world. So, no, I think with Bosch & Dahl we have that. The scalability, if you try some of the wines, I'm not here to brag about our wines, but, if you look at just like our white wine cellar, we've just recruited a new winemaker there. I mean, we're pressing 600 tons. So that makes it a significant business, and red is bigger. So no, that would be our flagship. But we love the quirkies, the little old roads, the Friars Cove is a different execution. So they all fit in. We don't want to be seen as this big corporate, and that's why you've got to give these brands freedom, fill niche positions, come with quirky little wines. Take some time off and come and drink some good wines late afternoon.
That speaks to the issue of perception, and a big part of what I hope is more than perception, but is the reality of South African wine, is the sustainability that sits at the heart of this particular expo. Where does that sit in terms of DGB, more broadly speaking? How right are we getting it, do you think, in South Africa?
We are ahead of the industry on the accreditations. I mean, Baxberg's fully carbon neutral. We've done all the tests, worked with the industry on that, and so no, we did a massive investment in solar. We've just completed another. There we've spent 25 million rand on that. No, from water purification to we've ticked all the boxes, and without being arrogant, we lead the industry in sustainability. It's a big investment, it's a big commitment, but we're right up there. I'm not saying we've ticked all the boxes, but it's very, especially when you get, a lot of the markets, they talk about sustainability, but they really just want the best price. But when you deal like in Sweden, Scandinavia, Canada, people are genuinely interested. They want to know the story. They want to see it.
And is that just the guys who you're distributing to, or are people in the street going, actually, this wine is carbon neutral, this wine's got a smaller glass bottle,
well, they say
I'm going to buy that one?
I couldn't really talk to that. They are deciding for their customers that carbon neutral is a big issue. But no, those young emerging consumers, very definitely. But it's not, you can't make these claims without really telling the story. And that's why after Cape Wine, we have numerous clients who we want out of the winery to see it all firsthand. So it is the future. We know our water crisis in South Africa. We've got to be up there. It's not a choice anymore.
I'll ask you a question I've asked a number of people, including Siobhan Thompson, our CEO of Wines USA, was on a little earlier on. This is great fun. We're having a terrific time with some really cool people, drinking loads of great wine. The evenings have been awesome, but that in itself has to just be the catalyst for what then goes on. If we're to sit down in 6 months, a year's time, and I say to you, Tim, was Cape Wine a success? What are the metrics for you that would allow you to say, yes, Dan, it was?
Very simple, conversions. We had interest shown in from different markets on different wines. How many of those did we convert? And you're right, that would take 6 to 8 months. But this is the easy stuff. Our sales guys have got to follow up. You came to Friars Cove, you were interested. Now let's talk the commercials. A lot of the clients here are tasting wines. They ask about price points. The hard work starts after this. It's about follow up. And I've always been critical of, a lot of distributors sit there and say, well, I didn't really get enough interest at my stand. Well, it's not Woza's job. 6 months ahead of Cape Wine, you've got to be working the market, encouraging people to come, agreeing to host them, and saying, look, and making arrangements. You stand at Provine and you hope people come to your stand. It's not how it works. You've got to do the preparation, book the appointments. So no, it's post Cape Wine will be the hard yards where, I could tell you in Easter whether we had a party with a hangover or a party to celebrate.
I suspect it is going to be the latter of those two. Speaking of 6 months to go before you slip away, I know there's always exciting stuff happening within your portfolio, led, I think, at the moment by the developments at Friars Cove. Update us on that and anything else that we should be particularly excited by.
Well, two things. One, Friars Cove, I'm going up on Saturday. It is 3.5 hour drive from Cape Town. The new wineries will be finished in 10 days' time. So I'm signing off on that. We've got an amazing retail space, big restaurant, huge tasting facilities. So that we hope to open second week November. And it's not that, the thing about Friars Cove, we're the only one in that ward, the Bamboos Bay ward. So when you travel a couple of hours, we're a destination. So no, that's very exciting. And the other thing we've done is we've been very successful in acquiring. Taken over the management of 2 big farms in the Helderberg, and I'm busy with a third. There's a lot of infected vineyards in Stellenbosch. So on 2 of them, we're completely replanting them. This is a 10-year project, but the terroir in Stellenbosch is par excellence, and it's my successors will have to toast me when I'm long gone, because those vineyards in 7, 8, 10 years time will really be delivering, and the premium wines are going to be hard to source down the road. Our replantings in the industry are far too low, and it's going to catch up with us.
Very last one for you. I know the sport obsession sits alongside the wine interest. We've been able to do some great work together with the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah.
Is there another sporting target on the horizon?
No, we are involved with Springbok Rugby and we support them wherever we can. I'm a bit worried about playing in France. I'm hoping the pressure's on France next year, being the favourites at home. But no, we do these 3 litres of Nicholas for the Springbok side. So whenever they play a test, we give a special commemorative bottle to the opposition. Sometimes we give it with a smile on our faces. Sometimes we're sulking like in New Zealand. But no, I guess we're all focused on the World Cup.
Well, perhaps the French will be so busy trying to make wine as good as South Africa's,
Yeah.
they won't be able to focus on the rugby.
Exactly, yeah.
Tim, thank you so
Great
much.
to see you. Lovely, always good.
Been a pleasure
Always
having you
good
with
to see you. Thanks so much.
See you again soon.
Cheers.
Tim
Bye.
Hutchinson, Chairman of DGB, giving you brands like Boschendal, like Friars Cove, quite recently, Old Road, full team. It's really important, I think, to have people like the DGB team leading a lot of the South African slightly bigger level around. Is Tim with us today? We're trying to track down Chris Alheit at the moment. We were going to have James from the Cape Town. Is unfortunately not able to join us. We'll to get him tomorrow. And we've also got Jeff.
Oh, thanks, Tim.
Pillay, I might remember Thornton from Bruce Jack Wines. He's been on before, and he's got a brand new wine. I think he's made it with his wife, but we'll get some details from him just a little bit later. We are at day 2 of Cape Wine, and it is an event that is seeing the world come together in celebration of not just South African wine, but of exceptional fashion, which allows me to introduce, basically, if Stephen Kitsoff and David Hasselhoff had a kid, this is the man. Chris Alheit, you beautiful man.
Hello, Dan. How are you?
I am in awe. But for people
Great to see your face again, man.
Oh, you're looking fantastic.
Thank you.
The Zoo Crew have pretty much taken over this, haven't they?
Well, I think the good old Zoo Crew's had a pretty big influence on how people do Cape Wine, but I do think the guys and girls have taken it to another level this year. Our theme is Disco Safari, and it's open to interpretation, so
I think
that's what happened here.
Both interpreted it beautifully, but also just drawn from your own wardrobe at home.
I do. I mean, this is one of many Jaguar skin tracksuits that I have at home. Yeah?
Tell me about the Zoo Crew, because beyond just looking glorious in your selection of amazing outfits, you're a group of youngish winemakers.
Youngish, yeah, maybe not so young anymore.
But I think the important thing is that you celebrate a very similar philosophy when it comes to wine.
Yeah, I think we started at, I think it was Cape Wine 2015. We had the idea of collaborating as a group and strength in numbers, and mostly young independent producers that were, entrepreneurial, that had started their own thing. And we thought it'd be a good idea to stand together. So there's a wonderful spirit of teamwork in the group and camaraderie. And Dan, that's something I've been chatting to quite a few international visitors last night, especially some guys from Holland and some guys from the UK, and they so love visiting the Cape because they see this fantastic dynamic between producers and working together. There's a real camaraderie, and apparently that's quite rare in the world of winemakers. I didn't know that, but we have something great going on here in the Cape. A real sense of working together to help people to understand what's really going on here.
I must ask you about your motivation for being here, because
it's much better.
What it really looks
I can
like.
hardly see you.
It's fabulous to have you here, and you and your crew have completely lit up the place. But if I look at the guys who are part of the zoo crew, I look at Duncan Savage, international winemaker of the millennium.
Yeah.
If I look at Peter Finlayson and what he's doing out of Crystallam and Harbour Hills Club, with yourself, you guys are making wine that is not easy to get hold of. It turns to sell out. As we spoke yesterday, Cameron van der Berg, the Olympic swimmer, I saw him in London on Monday. Dan, how do I get hold of Chris Alheit's wines?
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you guys actually really need to be here, given that your wine is selling out so quickly?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's not the first time it's been posed. I think there are a lot of reasons to be here. Obviously, it's not just importers that we're meeting. We're meeting sommeliers that have come from far. And those are the people that really do a lot of the work for the brands on the floor, in the restaurants, and pushing the wine through. It's one thing for an importer to buy a lot of wine and try to get it through his sales channels. It's completely another thing for there to be a real vibe amongst the wine nerds, the wine geeks that are on the floors, in the restaurants, that are on the WhatsApp groups. That's really where the action is. And a thing like Cape Wine gives us a great opportunity to connect with those people, obviously to connect with importers as well, and local people, local trade. But I'd say it would be foolish not to be here, because it's also, obviously there's a price to being here, but it's sort of like a celebration of South African wine also, and we really want to be a part of that.
And part of that celebration, I'm sure, is the opportunity in between dazzling people with your cutting-edge fashion and equally alluring wine.
The sunnies are coming back on now.
is slipping away every now and again, and being able to go and discover some South African wine that you haven't tasted before. Maybe it's a new varietal, it's a brand new producer, it's something new from an old friend. Is there time to do that? Is that a big part of the attraction?
I mean, right now the stand is just so packed that it's actually it's difficult to slip away. I'd love to. My assistant is helping me, to pour the wines and chat to the people. So hopefully I'll get a chance. But yes, it is great to try to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the Cape. But it's a very, very dynamic wine-growing country, and the landscape is changing quickly. There are a few new producers every week, it feels like, and I'm sure many of them will survive. And just intriguing wines being made. There was I'm digressing a little bit, but for instance, there was a little group of Southern Cape wineries that got together and hosted a tasting 2 nights ago in Cape Town. Huge success, apparently. Small wineries, little brands, making a big noise.
And it's great to see all of you come together. The camaraderie you spoke of is very much in play. What is the reception that you have been getting from the international wine buyers, the international sommeliers, about not just your wine, but where they feel South African wine is at the moment?
I think warm would be an understatement. I think it's fair to say that the Cape at the moment is sort of the flavour of the decade in the UK. And the UK do tend to be out ahead of the pack a little bit. So I believe that'll spread through to, and is already spreading through to most other European wine appreciating countries. It's very positive overall. I think the Cape is being seen in an increasingly positive light, and we're viewed as a value proposition, but not because our wines are inexpensive. It's because our best wines are relatively inexpensive compared to other countries' top wines. I mean, we have very few wines from the Cape over £100 in London, for instance. And the £100 bottles that we do have usually completely dismantle £500 bottles of wine from competing countries. So I think we have a lot to offer the world, and it's wonderful to see the world waking up to it.
And that's only going to enhance from here. When you go away from this and you catch your breath and wake up next Tuesday after Friday night's zoo crew party, and you have a look at this as a whole, and it's a similar question I've asked a number of people. What for you will say, right, Cape wine for South African wine was a huge success?
Yeah, I mean, I just think you've mentioned the camaraderie, and there's actually such an adrenaline rush, and I remember this feeling clearly in 2018, and I'm starting to get it again. You just have that warm, fuzzy buzz where everything went really, really well, and I hope that the Cape comes off looking great. We're all patriotic people, and we want the country to succeed, and we want the wine industry to be a big part of that. So it's a long answer to a short question, but I've already got that warm, fuzzy feeling where I know that people are going to come away with a fresh view of the Cape and thinking to themselves, my goodness, they'd like to emigrate and come and live here. That's what I want people to feel. Yeah.
Speaking of warm fuzzy feelings, it's exactly what we get from your wine. For people who are here tasting or people who are watching on enviously, what is sitting within the Alhide range at the moment, and is there anything new, exciting, different that you're conjuring up?
Here we are. That's the question, Dan. So we have our familiar classics like Cartology. I've got a bottle over here, but we've got a sneaky little vineyard that we planted, and we don't know what it's going to do. We don't know if it's going to be good or not good. Hopefully good. So we bought a piece of land in the Swartland after years and years of buying grapes from that place. It's called Nieuwedam, and it produces one of our standout Chennons called Fire by Night. It's a really absolutely terrific place to grow Chenin. Granite soils and Chenin Blanc just have a great affinity for each other. But what we have gone and done, actually a few weeks ago in August, we planted a small vineyard of a grape called Pontak, which is Pontak largely disappeared from the vineyard landscape in South Africa around the time of phylloxera and was never really replanted widely. And old literature from writers like Leipold seem to indicate that Pontak made really terrific dry wines back in the day. And it's a grape that's associated with the old history of South African wine back to the 1600s. So we're really keen to see what it does and hopefully be able to make a red wine to add to our white wines that has a really clear South African heritage identity, and that's something that we can offer the world that other countries can't. So that's what I'm cooking up in the backyard at the moment.
Breaking news! Chris Alhide is making a red wine.
Yeah.
When can we expect to taste that?
Well, the vineyard's been planted a month or so ago, a little more than a month ago, and so by the third leaf or so, we'll have some grapes. By the fourth leaf, we'll have more grapes. So let's say we bottle the fourth. You've only got 6 years to wait. It's going to be wonderful.
So what's that? 20? So basically, Cape Wine 2028.
I'll probably be gone by then. By the time.
All right. Let's show a little bit of love to your compatriots around the zoo crew. Some of whom, you look magnificent. John Seckham looks like he should be arrested instantly.
So does Duncan Savage.
Duncan Savage's moustache.
And the ladies have made a big effort. Really, they look terrific.
Well, we should be having Jessica Sarwan with us in just a moment, so we'll see how she's looking. From a wine rather than fashion perspective, though, one or two that you find are really standing out, that you're really enjoying amongst the zoo crew?
As I said, the stand's been busy. I haven't had much chance to taste around, but if I can pick one that's close to me, whose wines I've tasted, and it's a relatively new business, I think would absolutely be worth any wine lover checking out, is Damascene. Jean Smith's wines are really terrific. He knows what he's doing with red wine, and just brilliant wine. So check out Damascene. I think that's a really, everything at the zoo crew is gold in its own way, obviously. But Damascene's red wines are really standing out for me at the moment.
All right. Is he still wearing his blonde wig?
No, he's taken that off. I think he encountered resistance, as they say.
Oh dear. All right, we've got Jessica. I think she's joining us in just a moment. Last word for you from just Chris Alhide, the winemaker, as to where you feel after some tough times. I know you've talked about the warm fuzzy feeling, but when we set aside all of that emotion and passion and feel good stuff, just the cold hard business side of South African wine. Are we in a space where we should feel comfortable? Is there still a lot more we need to or we can do?
Oh, that's a multi-layered question, and much of it depends on what happens with the global supply chain, with shipping. Many of our businesses are quite dependent on exports, so who knows the way things are going with inflation. I think people need to be very careful of their costing and the operational expenditure versus throughput and inventory. So businesses are going to need to be sharp and be wide awake, and I do think that I would encourage South African wineries not to undercharge for their wines. Add that extra pound, add that extra couple of dollars. Really, the wines are worth it. And we still, as I said to you earlier, Dan, the value proposition for top-end South African wine is very, very strong.
And who am I to argue with a man wearing a Jaguar print tracksuit and R8 sunglasses?
So good to see your face.
Thank you so much.
Cheers,
really appreciate
Dan.
it.
Enjoy the rest of the show, mate.
I certainly will.
Cheers.
There we go. Chris Alhide, who is not just a trendsetter in the world of fashion, but is making wine that is lapped up all over the world. And a big thank you to him for joining us. Right, well, we stick with the zoo crew because as we say goodbye to Mr. Alhide, we say hello to somebody who's making some super Pinot Noir, but also some Riesling. They're great. We don't see a huge amount of it in South Africa, but gee, does she do it well. Jessica, welcome.
Hello, Dan.
Lovely to have you here.
Oh, marvelous to be here. Thank you so much.
As part of a group of people who are as much fashion icons as they are winemakers.
Indeed, indeed. It's been fantastic.
We've just been chatting to Chris, and aside from the ghastly outfit, there is the energy and electricity, not just in this whole room, but specifically in the zoo crew. And we were talking to him about the fact that you guys have not just a great friendship, but also a really similar understanding, appreciation of philosophy when it comes to wine.
Agreed. And I think it goes with a level of confidence, you know, pulling off that sort of outfit and that sort of stage. You need to be confident in your wine. So I think we have a bunch of really good wines there.
Well, let's talk about your wines in particular. And a wine that people don't always associate with South Africa, but the moment I ever mention it, I think I put a photo or a video clip of it up on online earlier this week, and immediately half a dozen people, oh, she does it so well, oh, it's brilliant. And that's really great that you've really made your own, but also shown that South Africa, via you, can do so well.
Well, maybe a bit like the zoo crew, I've just made it cool again and fun, because, you know, we need to remember that wine is supposed to be about fun. The Riesling is made in an off-dry style, and I think people can relate to that. It's floral, fruity, and it's just, you know, great with any kind of food. Yeah, and I think for a while Riesling had a bad reputation. It was too sweet, or perhaps a little bit too dry to understand it at an early age, whereas my wine has got about 11 grams of sugar, and it just tantalizes the taste buds.
It does indeed, and your Pinot Noir does exactly the same. And those are two varietals that if you ask people on the streets, if they're wine drinkers around the world, they'll tell you if they know about South Africa, about Chenin or about Pinotage or about a Stellenbosch Cab or a Bordeaux style blend. These are smaller varietals in the bigger South African picture. Has there been much surprise, pleasant surprise to people discovering that here is a Riesling, here is a Pinot Noir that are both South African and outstanding?
I think so, and I think people like the fact that there is focus, because I think when you're doing Pinot Noir, it's such a fickle grape, you really do need to hone in on it and try and just decipher it. And I've got two Pinots that are so distinctly different. The Nom is so opulent and intense, and it comes from a high altitude, so I think perhaps that's why I've been able to do it so successfully. Great vineyard sites. And then the Pinot Noir, which is, you know, from the Himalaya Ridge, which has also recently got a lot of attention, and it's a lot more structured and focused. So, yeah, there's been a lot of people being so surprised seeing Pinot like this in South Africa. So that's good, I think.
I think it is, and I think it shows people a diversity of the South African ability. The greatest South African vineyard has got more than just a couple of hallmarks. Is it finding traction abroad? I obviously saw it in London on Monday, but is there a lot of your wine that's finding new homes, perhaps even more this week?
Yeah, I think so. I'm in 15 countries as it is, and there were about 3 new markets interested. Is just the stock, you know, trying to keep up with the demand. But I think also people have realized that in South Africa we have such good value for money. Pinot Noir from Burgundy has become unaffordable, and a great Grand Cru equivalent from South Africa costs you maybe a third of a village wine in some domains. So yeah, there's definitely lots of value to be had, and it's great that people are discovering that.
What about this event, more broadly speaking, that you form part of? The energy in this room yesterday, you could feel it as you walked in. You just get the sense the whole industry is lifted, don't you?
Yeah, it's wonderful. No, it's imperative, and I think this is the greatest platform for not only the gatekeepers in the South African market, but also the international gatekeepers to come and meet the people in person, put a face to the name, and get an understanding of that camaraderie which we see at Zukru, and how important it is for the upliftment of the entire industry.
What about the issue of sustainability? It drives this event as a headline topic. There was a time when I think a lot of lip service got paid to sustainability. It was something to say nicely while you focused on more important things like the bottom line. I think very happily that has changed considerably. How much does it drive what you do, and how much do you feel the South African wine industry is taking it seriously?
Yeah, I guess that is often determined by the buyers. So it's good to see that markets like Sweden are very much focused on sustainability. In my personal life now, we've bought a farm. We're going to be farming regeneratively, organically as far as possible. And I think it's key, it's the future. So it's great that this is the focus. To be honest, I haven't had much time to walk around at Cape Wine, but at our stand we've done everything as far as we could by renting things, not buying them, you know, bringing in flowers ourselves, bringing them back home for the compost, etc. But yeah, I think sustainability is key, and in South Africa where we have so much nature, we do need to honor that and look after it. So it's a good topic. That's all I can really say at this point.
A work in progress.
Yes.
Before I let you go, because I know there's a queue waiting to drink your wine, has there been the opportunity to slip away a little, find some wine, some producers that you haven't encountered before and been pleasantly surprised by what's on show?
Not yet, but I'm so lucky because I'm, you know, also at home privy to many wonderful wines since my husband's in the wine industry and always bringing home some interesting stuff. So, but I have heard of a few things I need to go and find, especially tomorrow, maybe on the last day when, you know, the serious guests have come and gone, to go and decipher. Yeah.
Well, let us know what you find, and in the interim, have fun and keep going. It's lovely to see so many people there and enjoying some fabulous wine.
Thank you, Dan. Excellent.
There we go.
Bye-bye.
Jessica Salminer, Salmine particular Pinot Noir and Riesling. The husband she was talking about, of course, is Roland Peens, who will be doing that wine dinner with the Bordeaux charity dinner next Saturday. And they make one of the more formidable couples in South African wine. Right, we've got one last guest before we wrap up for our special live broadcast. Lunchtime on day 2 of Cape Wine. He's someone we've seen on the show before. He joins us from the middle of nowhere. He's out on the drift. He's Thornton Pillay. Mr. Pillay, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I have to say, Mr. Pillay, I can't call you Thornton anymore because now you're your own wine label owner.
Yes, that's correct.
This is exciting stuff. I know you'd mentioned it to me before. You've now finally got stuff. Let's have a look at it. Tell me about this new chapter of your journey.
So this Thornton is a brand named after my wife and I, so Thornton and Leanne. So it's basically a wine brand that celebrates the love and compassion for each other, as well as sharing, you know, what we're capable of doing. So these wines were produced in the Overberg area.
It's always interesting to talk to people who've, as winemakers, made their own wine, because it gets very personal, as we can see from the choice of name, and I love the name. What about the choice of grapes? Why these ones? What did they say to you, to your wife, that these are going to be the ones to represent us?
I was tasting the barrels, specifically on the red wines, with Bruce, and I told him, when we got to the Touriga Franca, I told him that this would be a good blending combination for Thorn Lee, and he agreed with me, and then went on tasting. Chose the Shiraz, the right barrel, and then the Grenache, and that's what made up the red blend for Thorn Lee. And then I put up a blend together, sent it down to Leanne in Durban, and she tasted it, and she was happy with it.
She approved.
And she approved it, yes.
Very important, that. What about for you personally, as a young winemaker? You've already done a lot, and your journey's been very exciting, but this is it's a very important milestone for any winemaker.
Yes, we ever since I met Leanne, we always had goals and ambitions, and starting our own brand was one of them, and she really helped me and pushed me to actually get everything off the ground and going with the name and registering the brand as well. So.
Talked about the challenge of living rather far apart. Do you think you've finally made the wine that'll persuade her to move down to the Overberg?
Yes. I did make the perfect wines for her, and she will definitely look forward, I'm sure. But for now, I'm in Durban, traveling back to the Cape. So
backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
All right, and doing so with a pretty sizable operation. Every 3 minutes, Bruce Jack launches a new wine and comes up with a new idea. Tell us about what you guys are doing here at Cape Wine this week.
So this week we are showcasing our various ranges. So the Bruce Jack range, which is about 9 plus 8 different ranges that we are showcasing. So it's just to showcase the various styles and the quality as well as the prices that we are producing. The Ghost in the Machine range, which is part of the Drift. The Mary LeBeau range, the Gullis Wine Triangle, which is part of the Cape South Coast, as well as the Drift range, which is
do you ever forget some of the wines that you guys actually do?
No, luckily not.
It's a really important space, this, for producers across the board for lots of different reasons. For you guys with such a global footprint, I bump into Bruce Jack wines all over the place when I travel. How important is it for you in terms of building on the existing markets, growing into new ones?
So being at Cape Wine this year is really going to help build that platform, and because we're meeting various people from all over the world, which really helps us a lot in terms of getting it out there.
Is there that kind of proud dad excitement? Oh, my wine's in Paraguay. I've got some Chenin Blanc sitting in Peru. Do you get a bit of a buzz from that?
Yeah, always, and I always speak about it, that the wines are all over the world, not just in South Africa, which is beautiful.
And then back to these wines before we let you get back to that queue of people and wrap up today's show. First of all, where can we find these? Are they available, or are they just for you and your wife to drink in the jacuzzi?
No, they are available. So the Sauvignon Blanc 2022 is 100% from Elim. So and the red blend is from the Drift. So you were welcome to visit the Bruce Jack website and order it through the website.
All right, and then a key question, because we've had similar discussions in the past. What am I eating with these?
So with the Sauvignon Blanc, definitely butter chicken curry, and the Touriga Franca, the Tonley Red Reserve red blend is lamb curry.
I had a feeling we might be heading in that direction.
Yes.
Right, it's obviously a really exciting time for you personally, but also for Bruce Jack. Well done on this. I can't wait to taste them, and good luck with the rest of Cape Wine.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, Thornton. So brand new wines, as Thornton gives us the perfect note on which to wrap up today's live show from Cape Wine, where again it's been a thunderous welcome to the world. Great wine, fantastic people, and a chance for the South African wine footprint to expand even further. We'll be back with you again at 5 o'clock this evening. We do not stop as we continue with our Cape Wine coverage, plus another live show lunchtime tomorrow. And look out for our highlights package in the morning. If you didn't see yesterday's highlights, are up on our digital channels as you get a run through of what happened on day one. Thank you to all of our guests, in particular Siobhan Thompson, the CEO of Wines of South Africa. We'll see you back live at 5 o'clock. Until then, goodbye. To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.